So we're going to go ahead and bring in Irma. Welcome, Irma, to the stream.
I was muted. Hello, Minder.
How you doing,
I did go
Irma?
through, I went through your whole hot take list today, and there were a few that I like that you added and quantified to your pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. It is still, I just still, so we all know that it was based off an ironic thing, but English language is filled with idioms, and so
So when you say
the
the
ironic
pull
doesn't
yourself,
matter.
okay. So what she is referring to is the pull yourself up by your bootstraps is fundamentally a good idea. I am aware of the analogy being impossible, but the idea of being able to manifest your destiny is a very healthy way to think.
But when I hear that, what I am imagining and how I guess I've always taken the pull yourself up by your bootstraps analogy is anything you can do it on your own. I no longer subscribe to that.
I
I
don't
don't think,
subscribe to that either.
okay, so what do you mean when you say manifest your destiny?
You can do things to make your life better, and having a positive outlook and try to like establish that, you're going to be more successful than if you didn't do that at all.
Harden your thinking, kind of?
Yeah, like just go for it. Like just take the time and go for it.
I just don't see how that's the pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Oh, it totally is.
Go for it.
Yeah. Get up and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get going. Make a difference. Do something about it. If you got a problem in your life, do something about it. Don't just sit there and be like, oh, woe is me. Society sucks. I can't do anything for myself. Get up and do it.
I definitely understand not having a victim mentality, but I don't know that pull yourself up by your bootstraps is the antithesis to that. Um, Again, I think that what it actually is connotating is that you are able to do what you need to do all by yourself. And I just don't know that I agree with that. There
No,
is,
there's people where that's not possible. But I'm saying
yeah.
having that mentality is a good idea. You should have that kind of mentality.
So just putting the pull yourself up by your bootstraps as a mental preparedness,
It's
but
not
not
really
like,
mental preparedness. It's live by that. Do that. Try to actually make your life better. Don't just sit there and act like that, the world is against you.
hmm.
You know what you turn into? Actually, I'm not going to call their name out. It's not cool. They're not here. I'm not going
Whoa.
to do it.
Okay.
I'll tell
All
you in
right.
DMs
I
on
get
who I
what you're
was talking
saying.
about.
I do understand ultimately what you mean by it. I just don't know that I would. I feel like there's way better idioms to say the same thing without saying something so ironically dumb. But
It is not dumb. I don't think
oh,
it's
it is.
dumb. It's
Okay.
not dumb. Why do you think
The
it's dumb?
because it was always meant. The whole thing started as this like absurd thing that you actually cannot do because you cannot pull yourself up
I
by your
get it.
bootstraps.
I get it.
So it was supposed to be this like way of saying that's something you cannot do. It's an impossible
Yeah.
task. And
Yeah.
now we use it as this like, well, do this impossible task.
Yeah.
And
Well.
I'm
Well.
like,
I'm taking it back.
I'm taking it
I'm
back. All
taking it
right.
back. It's mine now.
Okay.
I am taking that speech, and I am making it. I am making it my own. It is
You and the
fundamentally a
rest of
good
the
idea.
right wing
Do the thing.
party.
I'm not even right leaning.
I don't
I'm
care.
a fucking
They're the ones
Democrat.
that
I
use
am
it.
literally just a Democrat.
I know. Okay. So how is it that my other key points, because there were other ones, I just don't understand how you can stand by these. Lobbying has less impact than we think it does.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Then why do when senators retire, do they go into lobbying?
Hmm? Oh, I mean, they can make a lot of money by being a lobbyist. They make money by lobbying. They join a super PAC and they make some money. Yeah.
And that is
because they
what
know
is
the
the
ins and outs.
lobbying's what is a lobbying what are they supposed to do? What is the job of a lobbyist?
The lobbyist is there to try to convince people, specifically politicians, in voting in favor of a particular legislation that
So
interests
they're
the corporation.
there to influence decision making, correct?
Yes.
How is that
Well, they're
less
speaking on
impact?
behalf of the name of the corporations. Yes.
Okay. So public
Or people.
decision
It could be
making,
just people.
however, you know, it seems like what happens, they tend to just, especially with lobbying, they do not give a care about the public, but it becomes about the interest of the few. And that's the problem that I tend to think that it does have an impact
Yeah.
more than what people
Have you ever
very,
have you ever looked at Open Secrets?
no. What is this? What is Open Secrets?
Open
Is this
Secrets pulls the is able to show you what are the spenders in terms of lobbying efforts. And if you actually look up what lobbying or what lobbyists push for, you'd be surprised how much of it you would actually agree with. A lot of the times it's going to be like it's just serving their particular interest, and it could be something as simple as like, actually a really big one is like a realtors association. Like they just want there to be realtor rights, and it's something that commonly gets legislated against. And so the realtors serve to protect their interests by having a super PAC for it that donates millions of dollars. In fact, more money than pharmaceutical companies, more money than the medical associations. It's crazy. Also,
I'll have to take a look into that.
you should take a look at how much is actually spent and how they actually spend it. A lot of the times, they're doing it for both Republicans and Democrats. They don't really care if it's a Republican or Democrat. They just want to serve their interests. And sometimes their positions, a lot of the time, their position is bipartisan. And again, just because the corporation pushes for that thing, that doesn't mean, therefore, that the people don't want it as well. It's quite often that they align. Sometimes they don't align, though, and I'll grant you that. I just don't think it's nearly as influential as people think it is.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. Send me the name of that link again.
Sure. It is called opensecrets.org. You can look at federal spending. I posted it in side chat.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. What was the next one? That was number 16.
Wait, is that all you wanted to
Oh, no.
You wanted to change the topic?
I've still got to learn that. I've got to take a look into so
On
that I can look into the
lobbying.
spending. But what I was noticing when I was researching lobbying is there's been a lot of repeals to how spending is actually being done and what can be spent and how on corporations, from corporations into donations for candidates in politics. So I will have to look into the Open Secrets before I would want to continue that particular debate. So moving on. The other one I had an issue with is love is a chemical and nothing more.
Yeah.
No.
Why?
Because there's a psychological and illogical emotional component to love, and there's a choice.
So are you saying that there's like this emergent property of the chemical?
Explain that in simpler terms.
Okay.
How?
So there's like the chemical itself, right, that we're talking about. And by induction of this chemical into your brain causes you to feel a specific way, which is what you're referring to, the emergent property.
Oh, I believe love comes from like the initial chemistry attraction of, the serotonin and all of that. But I think at some point love does grow beyond that.
What are you saying that there's something different?
I don't think the chemicals, like we know that
David really, really wants to speak right now.
Who?
I'll invite David. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh God. Hello, David.
Jesus.
Hey,
David.
chemical and electrical are two different things. All right, that's all I gotta say. That's all. That was it.
That was it. You literally were spamming, trying to request to speak just for that.
Yeah, neurons.
Bro, you are killing me.
They send and receive both chemical and electrical signals.
All right.
Love exists in the electrical domain as well.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
Ooh. Thank you for making my argument for me, David.
You're welcome.
So are you saying that like you're just going to attribute the rather than looking at emergent properties, you're going to derive it down into electrical properties and not chemical? And that's the defeater?
Uh-huh.
Not you, David.
Well, oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm
he's
asking
joining.
Irma.
Yeah.
Well, like the
Yeah,
psychological
he's
is
joining.
composed of the electrical, right? And the chemical.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's more than just the
I
chemical.
mean, if you remove that chemical, would you have the electrical that results in said love? I don't think so.
If you remove the electrical, you wouldn't have it.
No. I'm saying if you removed but the
They're probably
electrical is
codependent.
created through the chemical bond, is it not?
But
But it
the
doesn't
feeling of
sustain it.
love is also dependent on the electrical.
I'm
Because
saying
that's what
that
starts
you
like
induce
lust. That's
this
what
and then
starts
people feel
infatuation.
love. You give people that, they feel love. It's crazy.
They feel love or they feel euphoric.
Love.
Okay,
Are
but
you just saying that like
what is
anything that we
okay?
experience as humans is chemical based?
Oh yeah. I would go that
Oh,
way.
Everything.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
literally everything is chemicals.
Well, it's all
Literally
chemical.
every single thing in the universe is chemicals.
It's all chemical dependent. I would agree to that.
I'll agree to that.
So you guys don't Irma, you have not disagreed with a single one of my points.
I'll agree it's chemical, dependent, but I don't know that love is nothing more than a chemical. Not
But
nothing
yeah,
more.
I agree there are
it's
emergent
not
properties to love.
nothing
It's
more
if you would
because
say love
But
is a chemical
but
and then stop, it's the and nothing more that I'm like
yeah, I think
picking.
that's a little far.
That's the too far for me, Amender. It's too far
why is it that bad?
because it's not just nothing more.
There's
Why
some
not?
special things our brain
Why not?
does that is
Because as we
not
already
a
advised,
chemical reaction.
yeah, it's electrical as well as other things. It's not and
Which is
nothing
derived
more.
from the chemical
It's
basis.
still, but you said that's what it's derived from, so it's not and nothing more. You're
Uh,
agreeing. So it's love is a chemical and adds to this derivative of electrical, but it's not and nothing more. You are even agreeing with me on that point.
all right, fair enough.
Fuck, I
That
win.
I'll say that part though. Give me a quick moment. I'll change that portion. You've won that debate. How about that?
I'm clapping. I'm clapping. You can't hear me, but I'm clapping.
Bro, I am getting ass drops in borrows right now, bro. I'm fucking getting just fucking anally stomped. All right, it's fine. I'm fine.
Question about the last one as well. I need
What's the last
clarification.
one?
It's okay
You
to
have
be
to
a landlord.
Yeah, it is okay to be a
No,
landlord.
no. I want
Yeah,
clarification.
it is.
Do you think it's okay?
There's nothing morally wrong about being a landlord.
Let me ask my question. Okay. Do you think it's okay for all of these major corporations to be buying up single family homes and then renting them out?
There's probably a limit.
Okay. So okay. You don't think all corporations should be able to be landlords, right? But I agree with you
Well,
that
I
like
do believe that
personal family homes,
there's a room for it, but yes, I would also agree possessing some limitations to it because obviously, if you have
regulation.
low interest rates, and all you have is investment corporations that are using it as a way to make more money where people need a place to live, I would agree with you. Sure. There probably ought to be some regulation for that, but that doesn't mean landlords are bad.
No, I would agree with that. No, I agree with that. Like I don't mind like the personal property landlords, but like I am growing rather wary of the corporations buying up all the properties and then
I'm just calling
renting them
this
out.
the grab bag of debates. I'm just going to call it the grab bag. All right. There's too many topics. There's too many topics you're throwing at me. You got anything else?
Those were all. That was it.
Okay.
Those were
Yeah.
my
You agreed with everything else.
yeah,
at
except for the
you.
pull yourself up. I still think there are better idioms to convey that same
I'll
sentiment.
I'll take
Okay, hold
15
on.
up with
Where's
you
the one
later
with
because I'm not convinced.
the chemical? Love is a yeah.
63. I wrote all the numbers down that
I'm
I
just gonna say
also.
love is a chemical. There you go.
Thank you. Well,
There you go.
that
How
was
about
What's your best evidence for 15?
You gotta say it. You gotta say it because nobody knows
Oh,
what you're talking about.
what's that?
Spanking is
Spanking is
child
child
abuse?
abuse?
Yes, there's giant meta-analysis on that.
Yeah, but what's the best study within those meta-analysis that you think illustrates it?
Sure. I'll present it right here inside chat. I literally linked it just today, actually. Here you go. I'll post it inside chat. This particular meta-analysis is relatively recent from 2016, and it represents 160,927 children.
Can you pick a study within that meta-analysis that you think is a quality study?
This is the study.
I know. I'm asking you if within the meta-analysis, if you think there's a particular study that you think.
I don't have an issue with any of the studies. I guess I didn't dig into
With none
each
of
and
them?
every individual study.
I'm not asking you to analyze all of them. I'm just wondering if there's one within there that you think is a.
I would have to look at each
particularly
and
good.
every individual study to tell you that. I have not done that.
Well, let me know if you run into one you think is quality.
Okay.
I'm reading through your hot take list.
This is we gotta have a restriction. We just have to have one debate, one
Okay.
topic, one debate, and try to stick to that topic rather than grab from this grab bag debate format.
Oh, which one you want to argue about, Irma?
Oh, I was
Either
good.
you're-
I've hit all
She's-
mine. I'm actually gonna
She's-
just join the audience.
She's satisfied.
I am
Almost satisfied. You'll see this video on Friday.
Awesome. You have a good night, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait till I pick one of these out. I haven't read through this list.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I'm currently playing old school RuneScape. You could see the very riveting gameplay that I'm having.
That was a good time up until my best friend let somebody hack my account.
What? What did your friend do?
It's like 4 a.m. on a Saturday, and he gave somebody my password. He took all my good stuff.
Why?
He was no longer my best friend after that.
What?
Because people are cruel, evil apes, you know? You always get lucky with your first grade friend.
I'm just imagine what that conversation was like. You're no longer my friend after this.
Yeah, it wasn't quite like that.
You made me lose my dragon medhelm.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
I lost my Santa hat.
I should punch that guy in the face, actually, now I think about
I mean,
it.
that's like a
Don't-
really boneheaded move, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's a
last time I've
boneheaded
seen
move.
him, the last time I saw him in the last 15 years, he was getting married. So
So you're
I
just gonna
probably
like
wouldn't
show
have
up
been
to
a good
him when
time
he's
to
got like a
punch him.
kid and hasn't played any RuneScape since, and you're just gonna punch him
yeah, I think so.
in
I
front of
think
his
that
wife
sounds
and kid.
a good way to go. Yeah, I think I'd be comfortable with that. I think he'd know, you know.
Yeah.
He'd understand that he had deserved it.
You made me lose my Halloween mask, you loser. And then you fucking just fucking wail on him.
I mean, at least once.
You just fucking slam him into the ground.
You wouldn't?
No.
Come on.
That's funny. Do you find anything in there that you disagree with? There's so
I
much.
was-
I
I
have
was thinking
so
about
much to disagree
20.
with.
Objective morality is false. I mean,
Yeah, it is
kind
false.
of agree with that, except for once someone states an objective or a goal, then I think it's like.
I don't think you know what objective morality is if you think that that's a defeater for it.
Well, I don't think it is. I think it becomes objective once a goal is stated,
What does objective mean to you?
like fixed. Like the behaviors have a relationship with reality.
No, that
produces
is
a
not what
particular
objective
outcome.
is.
Oh, well, what does it mean?
The best way that I've been able to describe it is imagine it is something that is independent of humans, human interpretation. It is the way it is. One of the best sniff tests
Right, it is
that
the
you
way it
can
is, yeah.
do The one of the best sniff tests that you can perform is all you have to do is ask, can that be measured? And so if you're talking about a thing that can be measured, for example, the diameter of Jupiter, that's objective.
Right.
It is independent of a human
right.
being able to analyze it.
Right. So I think morality works that way once you state a goal.
No.
Why not?
I mean, you're saying that you want to do this objective moral framework, but the question is, why would you do that? Because you said so?
No, I'm saying that like once a person identifies something they want to achieve, like the behavior's relationship with that goal is objective.
The behavior's relationship with that goal is objective. We're not talking about accomplishing something.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, so if I would agree with you up until a person sets a goal, and then I think if you have a hierarchy of morality or values, that like once you set something at the top of it, all of the like say behaviors that you accept or reject that you think have a relationship with that goal, that relationship becomes objective. So it's subjective in the sense that people can determine. It's subjective in the sense that people can determine what kind of goal that they want, right? Like I can say, oh, I want survival and fulfillment for my family, right? Like that's subjective. But once you set that goal,
you're just saying it is objective that you're going for that goal, but that doesn't talk about the morality being objective.
That's not all I'm saying. I'm saying that, like, okay, here, let me make it more specific.
Can you give me an example of objective morality?
I'm trying to right now. So once again, we agree at the level of people picking the goal, right? But once they decide the goal, like say survival and fulfillment for their family, everything that comes beneath that serves that is objective insofar as, say, you know, whatever it is, gay marriage being accepted or lying or whatever, like the relationship between those behaviors and the goal are objective.
So what particular rule are you saying is an objective moral?
What particular what?
What particular rule would you say is an objective moral?
So
just give me one example.
I'm not giving you an example of an objective rule. I'm saying that the relationship between any particular rule that someone picks and what they're trying to achieve is like deterministic.
That you're just talking about the choosing of that rule.
So I'm saying, like, say that you think that say you think you should never lie, right? As some kind of moral value. Like the relationship between said moral value and something that you're trying to achieve, I think is deterministic and objective. Like,
yeah, you're pursuing that goal, and then it is the pursuance of that goal that's what's objective. But that's not that's not a moral framework.
No. What I'm saying is that, like, that whether it's correct or incorrect relative to the goal, like whether it moves toward the goal or not, that's not up to you. It's up to forces and information outside of your control that determines whether that behavior is leading towards that goal or not.
But then what is your goal framework based off of?
Something subjective.
So it's subjective.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about purely beneath the subjectivity, right? I'm talking about once you set the goal, those morals are now not subjective. So if somebody tells me, oh yeah, I want like,
I mean, I guess you can measure like particularly like how much crime was done in the city of Seattle, right? That number would be an objective number. But like as to whether or not you care there being more or less crime is independent of an objectivity that is a subjective measure. So like, again, it just comes down to a subjective framework.
not if there's anything above it, right? If you think it's like, say, there being less crime, like people don't generally actually place that at the top of their hierarchy. So like, um, whether they care about there being more or less crime can be correct or incorrect relative to their higher order goals. So if you want, like for me, it's survival and fulfillment for my family, right? Which is subjective. But anything beneath that, like whether there should be more or less crime, or like how I feel about more or less crime, that can be wrong and right relative to that goal.
Um, yeah, I mean that just means that that it's only subjective morals. You've just kind of showed to me that it's all subjective.
I I don't think that that's how I approach it though. Like I would say the majority is objective and the minority is subjective. Like you have to designate something subjective. But as far as like the conversations that people typically have as to whether a certain behavior is moral or immoral, I think there's a lot of productive ground to be discussed as to whether someone should or shouldn't be participating in a certain behavior. I can just approach those conversations based on what things they want to achieve in life, which is subjective.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying the behaviors are almost never subjective as far as whether they should be participating in them or not, because the behaviors themselves are almost never the same thing as that higher order goal.
Okay.
I don't know if that doesn't disagree with what you're saying.
There's nothing
agree.
incongruent with what I'm thinking here, and it just ultimately leads to a subjective moral system. It's all subjective morality.
I guess I don't. Again, though, I don't think it. I think that's the minority because I think most people want the same stuff. I find very few people that have other goals in their system when you dig into it that aren't like, say, like the survival and fulfillment of your family, right? Almost everyone puts that very close to the top. So, like when we're talking about a moral
What about somebody
system,
that's been abused by their family?
I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. I'm just saying like 99, 98% of people are on board with that
I mean,
goal.
that's
So
kind of
when
my
it
point,
comes
though.
to
It's like it's up to a person's individual interpretation, which would make it subjective.
most of it isn't though. It's like
Yes, it is. Even if it's
no, it's not.
99.9%, it would still be technically subjective because it is up to an individual's interpretation to make that determination for themselves.
In almost all cases, it isn't up to their interpretation. In
Yes, it
almost all
is.
cases, okay, so in almost all cases, they have a higher order goal, right? And in almost all cases, the behaviors that they select that they think result in that goal have inconsistencies and incorrectness within them. So it doesn't matter who you're talking to. Um, Again, I'm not excluding the subjective component, but the majority of the conversations, in my opinion, have to do with the objective. Like, what behaviors are you participating in, and like how do those behaviors move you toward or away from the goals that you have? So yeah, once again, I'm not excluding the subjective, but I'm just saying almost all the conversations that have to do with it definitely include an objective relationship between that behavior and the goals that the person has.
Um, you are not saying anything that is showing to me that there's this objective morality.
Well, what I'm saying is that like those moral systems and the behaviors that people assign to them, that people adopt, like you can go to people and say, "Nah, like that behavior is objectively incorrect if you're trying to achieve that goal." That's all I'm trying to say.
Sure. Yeah, there's like a measurable component to that, though.
Which is the majority of the conversation.
No, I don't think so. I think that like people possess different moral considerations as to what they find valuable versus not valuable. And it's largely determined by where they grew up in and at what time.
I don't think it is. I think it's pretty uniform across
Some
humanity.
some things are uniform.
I think most
And
of
and
it's
it's mostly
majority.
because there's like we're humans and we require like food and energy and water,
Yep.
sunlight. We require all of these things in order to like survive, shelter. We live in kind of like this Euclidean world where like things have to go from point A to point B in order to satisfy those desires. And so the answer is that like there seems to be an underlying objective framework that every human has to abide by. And so we end up coming to similar conclusions of solving those very real problems. But as to like what we value in between, as in like the moral systems, that part is subjective. Which is why I say
it's
morals
also
are subjective.
I mean, even from that standpoint, it's not. In that, for it to be subjective, it has to be beholden to the feelings of that person. Like, so if you identify a goal, right, that you want, for it to be subjective, or solely subjective or purely subjective, it wouldn't be open to, in the same way things aren't purely objective, it wouldn't be open to the influence of the objective. So there's people, if you talk to them about goals they set in their life or things they're trying to achieve, that I think what you'll find with almost everyone who's a normal functioning human is that they'll set goals in their life that they end up realizing they're not actually happy with. So they'll say, "Oh, I want to be, a therapist or whatever," right? And they'll go achieve that goal. I'm like, "Oh shit, you know what? Like, that goal doesn't actually make me happy or fulfill me or whatever it is," right? It's like there's this other layer to it that's outside your explicit understanding of the world and your feelings towards it.
David, what are you arguing right now?
Well, I'm saying that people, when they're talking about moral subjects, are usually talking about accepted and rejected behaviors, and those can be objectively, well, maybe not purely objectively, but measured and talked about and criticized on the basis of their relationship to the goal. And then I'm also saying those subjective goals, like, it's not as simple as, oh, I just prefer this, right? It's like, oh, I think I prefer this, but it ends up I don't. And that's happens to almost everyone. So there's an objective reality underlying both sides of that coin, of the goal setting and the relationship of behaviors to goals, that you don't have explicit control of.
David, I got to tell you that doesn't make any sense to me.
How's that?
Well, it was like I didn't understand it at all.
Okay, so
It
what's
completely flew over my head.
What's a moral system to you?
A moral system?
Yeah, just describe a simple moral.
Rules that people uphold, that we attempt to achieve a better life with, to maintain us being a social species.
I think the social species is a little specific. Oh, but okay, that could be a certain example, right? So, so what I'm saying is there's an objective layer to both sides of that coin, in that, like, one, the goal could be wrong, and two, the
Wrong to
behaviors.
you.
No, to you, to the person
you.
setting the. No, to you.
Well, like, take for example, right? You've got a person, and like let's say you're in like an extremist part of the Middle East, and they say we want Sharia law, and everybody wants Sharia law, and it's like, to us, that's wrong. We don't want that, right? But to them, that's not wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. They can be completely wrong about it.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying, though. It's subjective. It's up to a human's interpretation to determine whether or not that is right or wrong.
It's not up to human interpretation.
Yes, it is.
It isn't, and the reason
yes,
why
it
isn't is because the reason that it isn't is because they end up being wrong.
Do you think your morals would be the same if you grew up in a different time and place?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that their goals can be wrong according to them, and that's what happens to everyone. people, what they do is they set goals in their life, they achieve those goals, and then they realize, oh wait, this goal wasn't all that great. Where does that come from, right? It doesn't come from
Yeah,
their
well, they look at
interpretation, because
some sort of
their
outcome
interpretation.
and determine that. There's like an
Yeah,
outcome that they observe that they don't like the outcome of, and so they but like again, even
right.
like there's the empirical like objective reality that they can observe, and then there's going to be like the subjective moral interpretation that they espouse that they think will get them that goal. But this is nonetheless still subjective. It's all subjective.
But it's also objective in that
No,
those feelings,
no,
right? You
the
have a
underlying
person,
thing is
one second. You have a person who interprets a certain goal as good, right? They achieve the goal, and then they're like, oh shit, this isn't good, right? Where does that come from? It comes from objectivity. It comes from the underlying reality. That doesn't come, it's not like, it's not independently
but that's
within their own
still up to
mind.
a
They're like, oh,
person's human interpretation. That's still subjective.
so what,
Because there's going to be people that are going to see the results and be like, wait, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, but what cues someone to say they're not fine with it?
They look at something that they don't like.
Where does that come from?
The objective world around them.
Right.
But then you're just saying that there's an objective world, not that there is subjective morality.
What I'm saying is there's an objective component to both the relationship between what's accepted and goals, and whether goals are palatable or not. I'm not excluding subjective interpretation from this. I'm just saying that
I
the
feel like
objectivities
I
are
feel like
definitely
you're
a part of
missing
it.
what I'm trying to tell you here.
I think that you're too used to exploring the topic from the idea that it's 100% one or the other.
Okay. But you fail to show me a single rule that would not be objective, or that would
So
be
in
objective.
with Sharia law, right? So
Hmm.
if a person thinks Sharia law is good, I think the issue that I run into, okay, let me reset. So I think the issue that I run into is people will look at moral systems and goals, and they'll say like, oh, well, you can't criticize that because it's subjective, right? And I reject that
No, no, no,
because
no. Hold on. You can absolutely criticize something even though it's subjective. Just because something is subjective doesn't mean it is not worthy of moral interpretation.
how do you determine whether something is wholly subjective or objective?
I've already told you it's based on whether or not you can measure it. If it's measurable, it's objective. It is no longer up to a person's interpretation as to whether or not it being, or whether or not it is. It is what it is. It exists within the empirical reality we find ourselves in, or the Euclidean world we find ourselves in.
So if it's 1% subjective, then it's completely subjective. I just don't understand how you determine.
It's not that
Like,
it's
so you say you
completely
have a
subjective. It's
particular,
I don't know a single moral rule that wouldn't technically be subjective. That doesn't mean, by the way, that it's
but
not
when you're
worthy of moral
labeling,
consideration. It absolutely is. There's a lot of things that on their face value are, they're already like, we definitely want to follow that rule.
if it is subjective, then how would it be worthy of criticism if it's
Hmm?
wholly subjective?
Well, because then you can like look at its values and then determine whether or not that the outcomes are something that you would enjoy or that are good in your eyes. And by the way, right, like a
When you
collection
say
of
you're,
people,
I'm missing who you're
a
describing as.
collection of people are going to end up, scrutinizing your position.
But what is there? Sorry, can you repeat that as far as what there is to scrutinize
So
if
you
it's
have
wholly
a
subjective?
subjective interpretation as to how things should be, right? You apply
Okay.
that thing. Other people around you end up scrutinizing based on the results. Let's assuming you get what you want.
That doesn't add up to me. So I'm gonna have to dive back into that part of it. So say something's composed of objective and subjective components. What is the ratio that it has to have before it becomes one or the other?
Hold on a sec. Can you repeat that?
Say some concept or whatever is comprised of objective and subjective components. What ratio does it have to have before you determine whether it's subjective or objective?
I've already explained to you what objectivity is. It's not a ratio.
On what? So describe again
Independent
on what
of
ground. Describe on what
independent of
grounds.
human
Give me,
observation.
right.
A
So
good
give me
sniff
another.
test is whether or not it is measurable.
Great. Well, give me an example of something that you would consider to be a moral that you could criticize.
A moral that I could criticize?
Mhm.
Believing in Christianity. Yeah, that
Okay.
entire moral system is a freaking giant pile of garbage. I don't like it. It's bad.
Okay, and where does your grounds for criticizing it come from?
Based off of the objective framework around it. The external sense stimulus shows me that people's lives get worse.
What if people don't value the external sense stimulus?
That's correct. They don't. They
But
don't care
what's
if it
your-
makes
what's
their
your-
life
what's
worse.
your-
They will believe because it makes their fifis good.
What's your grounds for criticizing that?
Well, it changes. I mean, are you asking why, or are you asking like what are my groundwork?
Your grounds for criticizing that they don't care about the physical evidence?
It would be my
Sorry,
axioms.
Okay, but they don't care about your axioms.
I know.
So what's your grounds for criticizing it?
Do you want to know the
They don't care about
axioms?
your axioms.
You just-
No, I'm saying why are your axioms important to them?
well, I think it leads to better outcomes. I think people live better lives if you live under my axioms.
Yeah, but they think that if they live by their axioms and you live by your axioms, you'll go to hell and they'll go to heaven, and their
Yeah, I get
eternal
it.
soul.
Don't worry, I get it. I don't think any of that is real, but okay.
I don't think it is either.
So what's your point? I mean, it's just like another matter of subjective morality.
Well, I would criticize them based on which behaviors they accept and reject, and I would also criticize them based
Well,
on
yeah,
which goals they
basis of
set,
what? You're asking
depending
what's
on-
the grounding?
because objective reality disagrees with what they've picked, in my opinion. So when it comes
Wait,
to
wait.
particular,
Disagrees in how so? What objective reality are you observing that causes you to go Christianity is bad?
the results of those behaviors and the results of those goals.
Okay, so like, what would be like an example of a result of something that you don't like?
So in the case of a behavior, it would be, say, rejecting, say you have a high school and you say it's in a southern state and they adopt some kind of behavior like they want to teach abstinence. They don't want to teach any sex education, nothing about how to have safe sex or anything, right?
Mhm.
So at the level of a behavior, I would say, well, that's not going to result in what you want, right? Like you
Yeah,
want
it's going to make
less
life
teens
worse for
pregnant,
people.
so therefore it's stupid and it's a bad
Okay.
behavior to accept.
Well, to them, they
And
feel like
that-
it would work, right? They just have some
But it-
feelings that it'll
but it-
work.
But
I think I
because
see
of
what you're saying,
objective-
though. Like,
because of objective reality, it doesn't, though.
yeah, I'll grant you that. That there's like some but you're looking at it from a consequentialist point of view, and they're looking at it from a different point of view, from just consequentialism, which is fine. I'm just saying that it still comes down to a subjective interpretation, even though that you're able to look at it from a consequentialist point. And I agree with you on your consequentialism.
Well, in that example, I'm criticizing the relationship of the behavior and the goal, which I think is valid. I think they wrongly believe that it'll result. They want less teen pregnancy, but they're getting more. So I'm
Yep.
criticizing on that basis. But then
Well, no,
in
but they,
regard
they
to,
should be punished for having. They should. The baby is proper retribution for having sex. You harlot.
well, they don't think that. They don't.
Yeah,
think
they
they're gonna end
do.
up with more
They
pregnancies.
do
You
think
they're gonna?
that.
You think
They
you
think
they
that.
think they're gonna
They-
end up with more pregnancies?
Oh no, they don't. No, they're
No, that's what I'm saying.
no. Well, maybe some
But
of
no,
them.
yeah,
do.
but yeah,
I don't think
once
they
they are
care.
pregnant,
They're like,
yeah,
good,
once
more
they-
Christians more children to indoctrinate. It's fucking
think-
creepy, dude. It's
I
so
think you were on the point with as far as like once they do become pregnant. I think they're like, oh well, that's your just desserts. You know,
Yeah.
being a little
Dude,
whore
it's
or whatever.
so gross.
But
It's
then
so
but then
gross.
so
It's like the
like in that
grossest thing ever.
in that instance, I'm criticizing the relationship of the behavior with the goal, but I'd also criticize the goals too. I think, like, well, yeah, say with the Christians again, right? They'll be like, oh, well, like I want, say, oh, I want to arrive at a state where I have a wife and she is subservient, and this, that, the other, right? They fit the biblical description, right? I would also criticize it from that standpoint, in that, like, well, you think you're going to enjoy that state, but I don't think you are going to enjoy that state. I think you're going to be like tyrannizing your wife, and as nice as that sounds to you, I think it's going to lead to, like both of you being less happy than if you went toward a different goal. And I think there's like objective results of such goals that could be measured, where you could criticize like, oh yeah, humans aren't actually happy in that state. So I think that really, I mean, I think if I go beyond that, it's probably just running in circles. But I'm not saying there's no subjective components to it. But I think people neglect the objective components of it, insofar as you can criticize both sides of that based on the results and people's interpretations being incorrect about what the results of both the acceptance of behaviors and the setting of certain goals is.
Okay. You got anything else for me, David?
I don't know.
I'll give you the last
You
word.
can bring somebody else, and I can read some more. I only made it to, what was that level? I'll call it level 20.
Level 20 what?
It's 20 on your list.
All right. Well, we'll talk later then, David. Thank you.
All right. I don't know how to go to the audience, so you